right, trying to get the camera right so we can go into this. This is a test run as well. I'm testing, but I'm gonna leave it with some value because I will keep the video as is on this page. I was going to have the camera horizontally, but hopefully it's showing up vertically because that's how I have the whiteboard position. Now, let's go ahead and dive in. This is what we're gonna do. Investment formula for beginners. And this may be a series or ongoing segment of videos that I do under the brand or the title of Whiteboard Black Wealth. Because I'll be using a whiteboard and a black marker, but black wealth, as it relates to the income or the wealth gap, is pretty big. So I think it's significant for educational videos to be out there, readily available as they are, but just in a way that's easily digestible, coming from somebody who can speak in a language that I feel connects with our people, so we can close that wealth gap. It's unnecessary. So let's keep it real short and sweet. And I like to call this the EDA formula. EDA. Now, of course, just so I can throw out any disclaimers, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have a series 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is that they need in order to tell you what to invest in. However, I am a financial educator, and I've been able to educate people to help them deliver themselves from certain financial burdens. I own a credit restoration company, so I teach people ways that they can boost their own credit, as well as I help them restore their credit on their behalf. I also am an investor. So as I learn certain things and I continue my wealth journey, I like to teach what I'm learning as well as what I'm doing. So I understood that this is something that people need to understand in terms of being an investor and getting on track, even if you're a beginner. And what you got to understand is, don't let anyone rush you into investing just because it may be popular. Just like entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a buzzword, but don't let people rush you into it. You have to first go through these same 3 things, because you can apply what I'm about to say now to other areas, but you want to go through these things that I'm about to list in investing as well as in entrepreneurship. But for now, we're talking about investing. So don't rush, or don't let anybody rush you without understanding these things. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. So investment formula for beginners. This is the EDA method. Number 1, the E represents, and if you're watching this video, try to guess it as you're watching it. Type it in the comments what you think the E represents, what you think the D represents, and what you think the A represents as well. And we'll see if you're right. Now, the E represents educate. Educate. Educate who? Educate yourself, of course. That's the main thing. The main thing you want to educate is yourself. Now, if you're in a relationship, of course, you might want to educate your spouse on things that you're learning so you can both be on the same page. So I'll go ahead and put that, because we talk to a lot of couples, people who are married or aspire to be married. So you want to educate yourself. You want to educate your spouse on the things that you're learning, the things that you're doing, the things that you plan to do with your money. Otherwise, you find yourself in a predicament all because you didn't understand what you were up against. Now, how do you want to go about educating yourself? As it relates to investments, you want to educate yourself and or your spouse, especially you if you're going to be the one that's doing it. Educate yourself on the different type of investment options that exist. Which one is going to be good for you based on how it operates. So you want to educate yourself on certain things. And I'll just make a list of certain investment options. Many people are familiar with a 401k. So you want to educate yourself on a 401k. Is that right for you? All right. Educate yourself on that. What is it that the IRA provides that could be a benefit for you or not? A Roth IRA. You want to educate yourself on that. You want to educate yourself on what is an index fund. I'm going to just list some things that you just kind of want to understand that exist. What is a REIT? Is this something that you want to incorporate into your investment portfolio? What is diversification? What is diversification? Disregard any typos or write-offs. What is diversification? You want to understand that. What is dollar cost averaging? I just write in DCA. What is dollar cost averaging? How does that work? What are ETFs? You want to educate yourself on these things, understand the pros and cons of all of them. So when you're educating yourself about anything, and I talk to people about this all the time when it comes to different topics. A lot of times when people are looking to learn certain things, they don't look at the pros and cons, or they don't look at both sides of the story. They're so focused or so emotionally attached to what it is they want to do that they don't even want to listen to the other side. And that could be very, very, very detrimental. Imagine not knowing both sides of the story and you just so emotionally attached to your own belief based on your own previous conditions, and you miss out on the bright side of what's going on. A lot of people did that in politics, believe it or not. They were so emotionally attached to one particular party or one particular person or two set of people that they didn't even pay attention to the other side because they were jaded in their opinion. And you mess around and put your trust in someone who doesn't have a track record of being trustworthy. So you got to understand that. The same is true when it comes to your investment. You mess around and get so emotionally attached to one company that doesn't have a track record of being trustworthy. You mess around and put all of your eggs in one basket and you don't diversify, which is making sure that your money is spread out in multiple areas. So you have to educate yourself on these terminologies and look at both sides, the pros as well as the cons to anything you're getting involved in. Otherwise, if your emotions lead the way, then you're setting yourself up for destruction. I'm gonna just be honest. This is non-emotional. See, when you're dealing with educating yourself, this is non-emotional. You can take your emotions out of this one. This is non-emotional. These are all based on what? If it's non-emotional, then it's based on facts. So everybody can have their own emotions, everybody can have their own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So when you lay out the facts and you fit it into what it is that you're wanting to do, then all you're left with is your unbiased perspective because you're basing it on facts, not emotion. So that's what you got to look at things in terms of life, business, and in this case, investments. Get your emotions out of it. Weigh out all the options, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and not to overcomplicate things. Don't get me wrong, because a lot of times people get paralysis analysis, and basically they study so much stuff that they never get started. This ain't that. I'm just saying get familiar with certain terminology so you can say, okay, based on the stuff I've done, let me at least get moving with this or with this plan of action. So you want to educate yourself on certain things. Now, I will give my personal preference as it relates to these things, and some of this is based on things I'm implementing myself, as well as things that I'm learning. Now, naturally, when you're investing, you want to diversify. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You can absolutely love Amazon, and you want to put all your money there. You can absolutely love Walmart. You can absolutely love Apple, and you put all of your money there. Yeah, they got a track record for producing results, but that didn't say that their future will be as bright as their history. So I want you to understand you still have to cover you. Now, not to say you can't invest in one company directly, but if you're just getting started, the main thing you want to understand is a couple of things, and that's diversifying, as well as I'll get into the other part on this second one. But you want to understand diversification. So two of my favorite ways to diversify, I'll give you three ways to diversify, is the ETFs, which is exchange traded funds, as well as index funds. And I'll stop there, but REITs is also a close one as well. And basically that's real estate investment trust. Now, I'll just give you a brief example of what they all are and how it allows you to automatically diversify every time you're adding money to that particular arena. So basically a REIT is a real estate investment trust, as I stated. So what it allows you to do is have ownership in some real estate, some of the land that certain entities might be renting from. So you got a portfolio of apartment buildings or stores or whatever falls under that REIT. And now you're investing into that fund, and now you have ownership in multiple areas that are all based on real estate, versus you just investing into one particular entity by itself. So it gives you some diversification automatically because it's bulked up together. ETFs, exchange traded funds. What that is basically a sector usually based on a particular area of focus. So, for example, you might have a real estate ETF that's centered around real estate. You might have a retail ETF that's centered around buying and e-commerce and shopping, holiday spending, things of that nature. You might have technology ETF that might be just centered around futuristic stocks based in the tech world. You might have an ETF for work from home type jobs. So Zoom and free conference call and different things might fall under that umbrella. You might have an ETF that's centered around medical. You might have an ETF that's centered around marijuana stock. It's a ton of ETFs. So you can think it, I can guarantee you it's probably an ETF for robotics, you name it. But it allows you to pick a sector that you feel has a future and profitability and jump in at a good time so that way you're able to diversify. And instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to invest all of my money in Tesla, let me get an ETF that includes multiple technology stocks. But oh yeah, Tesla just so happens to be in that stock as well. So it allows you to diversify your money, minimize your risk, because if you have your money in multiple areas, certain stocks might go up, but certain ones might go down. But if you only had your money invested in those stocks that went down, then you lost money. However, if you put yourself in a position to where you're able to diversify, at least if some are going down, it's a good chance that some are at least going up, which helps minimize your risk and can also work out in your favor if it's a sector that you believe in. So that's that about the ETF. So I love ETFs. But last but definitely not least, index fund. And this is what I slept on for a long time, and I'm really understanding the power in it. Index funds is just basically investing in pretty much the whole market itself. You might hear S&P 500, you know, the Dow, NASDAQ, things of that nature. Those are different index funds. But you're investing in the whole sector, and the power in that is this. Like, for example, with the S&P 500, with the S&P 500, they're picking the top 500 performing stocks. And if certain companies don't meet whatever criteria that they request or require a person to meet, then they get kicked out and a new one is brought in. So they're only worried about the top performing stock, which is pretty powerful as it relates to you putting your money there. Now, as it relates to you putting your money there, then that's natural diversification, and you're kind of just benefiting when the economy is doing good all the time, and that's a good long-term strategy. Some people say that they can beat the index fund, but I'm gonna give this quick story. Warren Buffett did a bet. He betted a hedge fund basically that he will put his money in the S&P 500 style index fund, and he would get a better return than people who were trying to beat the index fund. It was a hedge fund trying to beat the index fund. So it was a 10-year bet because they had to let time do what it does. So the bet lasted for 10 years. Now, when I read that, the winner hadn't been determined. But and when I was reading it, the winner hadn't been determined. But when I was actually reading it, then it had been determined. So I went and looked it up. I said, you know what? That was wrote 5 years ago when I was what I read. The author wrote it 5 years prior, so it hadn't been completed. But 2020, it had been. So I was like, you know what? Let me look and see who won that bet. Sure enough, Warren Buffett won $1 million, and he just donated it to a particular charity. He won $1 million all because he put his money on the fact that index funds was going to outperform the particular hedge fund. So it's not about trying to be the best person to pick out the stocks. If you're educating yourself, you can choose to diversify and just win as the market goes up. Now, there may be some unicorns and people who are able to do better than the index fund, but in most cases, if you're doing something that allows you to diversify in the form of ETFs and index funds as well as a REIT, then you're in good shape. Now, any of these stocks or index funds can also be packaged up inside of something like a Roth IRA. Sorry for the writing over it, but the Roth IRA or inside of an IRA, and this is just basically tax code determines how you'll be taxed. This could be you being taxed on the back end or the front end and not being taxed when it's time to withdraw years later, not being taxed on the profits and the returns that you're getting, or this could be you getting tax deductions on the front end. It just all depends. That's not what this video is about. Just wanted to highlight those things and let you know that you can have index funds but have it wrapped inside of one of these in order to maximize what your investment does for you. But it's all about educating yourself first and foremost. Secondly, what does the D stand for? Did you guess? Did you put anything in the comments of what you think the D stands for? This is going to be a funny word. And most of the time, this word is used in a negative way. But in this case, I want you to use it in a way that best benefits you at the end of the day. So after, as it relates to you investing, you want to educate yourself on certain things. Now, once you educate, you have to discriminate. You educate, then you discriminate. Now, many people use that word in a negative connotation. But in this case, this is just you being the judge of your facts and the data that you've collected. And you discriminate against things that don't suit you or don't suit your game plan. If you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and risk the chance of all of your eggs getting smashed or dropped, then diversify. So you discriminate against investing in just one stock. If you don't want to be taxed on all of your returns and you say, you know what, I don't like how the IRAs work because if my money grows to $1 million, now I'm taxed on that $1 million versus the 100,000 that I put into it. Then discriminate against the IRA if that's what you want. But it's based on your knowledge. So you have to discriminate against things against what isn't a good fit. Against, I'm going to insert what. But y'all get the point. What isn't a good fit. And naturally, we're doing this anyway. A lot of people say, I don't judge. I don't like to judge. You're supposed to judge. Naturally, you're supposed to judge. You're given certain gut instincts, intuitions, and experiences in order to be able to judge and determine if that's something you want to do going forward. You have to learn from certain things. That's all judgment is. Same with discriminating. Now, I'm not for discriminating against people and individuals, based on their ethnicity or none of that. But as it relates to data and facts and inanimate objects and things that you want to experience, you have to be able to determine, is this good for me? So in that case, you're discriminating against certain things. Another thing that I want you to discriminate against, and this still falls under this line, and a lot of people miss this, you have to discriminate against high fees. So as you're doing your research, make sure you're finding something that's low in fees. Extremely important, because I didn't realize this, and I was talking to a guy, he's a financial advisor, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get this investment stock and I'm gonna start investing in this, and he was like, you gotta watch that one, they kind of got some high fees. I ain't think nothing of it, but when I started seeing the math that was broken down by experts in this area and realizing that fees can eat at your savings, it could be the difference between you retiring 10 years earlier. Like, if you overpay in fees, you might have to retire 10 years later because you overpaid in fees. So fees are important. So you want to look for some stuff that is low in fees. So you want to discriminate against high fees. You want to look for some low fee ETFs, and especially some low fee index funds, some very low fee index funds. So you educate yourself on certain things that are available, figure out what's a good fit for you, and you discriminate against what's not a good fit for you. And in this case, I'll just keep it simple. We're going to discriminate against high fees and things that don't fit your tax strategy. So you want to discriminate against, certain taxes, tax taxes, tax methods, whether it's on the front end or the back end based on you. So that's all personal preference. And you might have a combination. You might have some things that you can get tax deductions on the front end, but other things you get tax deductions on the back end. It's just totally up to you based on your findings and remaining non-emotional. Keep that in mind. Now, last but definitely not least, and we'll wrap up, is you educate, you discriminate, and this is where the magic happens. Once you've done those two things, you educate, you discriminate, and now you automate. You see, one thing about money and people is that people are pretty inconsistent and not as disciplined as they think they'll be. Ask me how I know. I'm guilty of it myself. But if you position yourself to automate the process, then guess what? Now you're able to not get attached or emotionally in a position to where when a certain amount of money comes in, you're like, instead of investing, I want to do this. When you automate it, it's happening automatically. And this is easier for a person who works a job, especially because you can pretty much take that paycheck and have a certain amount deducted, whether it's in your 401k and your company is doing a match, or whether it's somewhere else and you have it automated. It's, every time you get paid, a certain percentage is going out. I used to do it when I was working full time at a job. I just had $100, and it wasn't a percentage based thing. It was just $100 going into this account. And sometimes I forget about it, and then I look up and I'm like, oh, I got $2,000 in there, or oh, I got 1,000 or whatever the case may be, because I wasn't paying attention to it. When you position your money to be automatically doing certain things, you find yourself in a place where you won't miss it. So you want to automate a percentage of what it is you want to contribute to your future. Now, for many people, this might be, or they might feel like I can't automate nothing. Everything that I get, I actually need. And I can guarantee you it's always somewhere some money is being leaked out. So, what you want to do is just start somewhere. And then you'll realize, you know what? I can do without that 1%. So, if you made a 1% automation to your income, what that looks like is $1 out of every $100. So, that'll be $10 out of 1,000. And then you realize you didn't miss that $10. Or if you say, you know what, I can automate 5%. So that might be $5 out of 100 or $50 out of every 1,000. So you want to automate some form of percentage. And the reason why I say percentage is this. If you end up getting a pay raise, or if you end up working overtime or doing something that contributes to more income, guess what? Now the amount that you're contributing to your future, your investments, also increase. So not only did you get a pay raise, so that your future, you gave your future a pay raise. So you want to automate a percentage of your income. Start low if you have to. If you're not comfortable with 10%, do 1. Then graduate to 2%, because you'll start seeing your money climb and you'll say, you know what? I want to make this grow a little faster. I can give a little more. I can create some other forms of income, because that's another one. Creating additional streams of income allows you to not only make more money, but position yourself to invest more. And now you're investing more, your percentage goes up automatically because you're able to dump lump sums and do it on a regular basis in order to make sure that you hit your overall long-term financial goals. So, in conclusion, and I'll give you something that I feel can help you add more cash flow, because that's really what it's all about. Many people don't invest because they don't feel like they have the cash flow to do so. Well, we've been teaching people for years how to increase your cash flow. Once you increase your cash flow, what that allows you to do is put more money towards other things, whether that's savings, basically you getting a contingency fund or emergency fund, whether that's paying off debt, knocking out debt faster, whether that's putting it towards investments. We've been teaching that, and there are different ways that you can shift certain money from certain areas in order to give yourself more cash flow, which allows you to hit your income goals faster. So, with that being said, what you can do to start getting yourself in position is something that I recommend that allows you to make more money, but also teaches you financial literacy, teaches you strategies, gives you a blueprint, teaches you terminology so you can educate yourself, because the terminology is there, the videos are there. You can learn what to discriminate against, because it's all there. And you can figure out how to automate the process all in one swing. And it's some other cool perks as well, like you being able to position yourself to, travel once things open up and you feel comfortable traveling, get discounts on things of that nature. So it's a good one-stop shop. Plus, if you're not familiar with making outside money, it's education that's built into it that teaches you how to make extra money. Just basically how to market yourself, because it's a business. And that helps you create more cash flow like none other. So educate, discriminate, automate. How can you do it in one swing? What I personally recommend, and I think you might want to pay this site a visit, is make weekly money.com. Go ahead and visit makeweeklymoney.com, and it'll position you to educate, discriminate, and automate, because you want to do these things as a beginner. And then, of course, you can escalate and grow into doing other things and really maximize this whole thing. But at the end of the day, when you're educated about what it is you're about to do, you make a more informed decision versus letting emotion get the best of you and you losing money that could have been avoided, that could have been going towards your future. When you've educated yourself, now it's safe to discriminate against the things that aren't benefiting you, because everybody has a good sales pitch and they tell you that they have your best interest at heart. But when you leave your money in the hands of someone else, greed naturally has the ability to set in. Whether you realize it, no matter how good and kind and sweet and how much they smiled in your face, greed has the ability to set in. So they're likely to do what best benefits them and tell you it's beneficial to you, when in all actuality, what's best beneficial to them isn't best beneficial to you. So you have to educate yourself and not position yourself to lose money all because somebody had a good sales pitch. And then once that's done, you want to automate, because automating allows you to not miss the money. You know, it's just happening automatically and you look up, okay, it grew some more. And if you're not at a job and you know, there's different things that can allow you to automate, then discipline does have to kick in and you have to do it as religiously as possible, as often as possible. And if you want to help bring all of that stuff to life, I highly recommend MakeWeeklyMoney.com, because at MakeWeeklyMoney.com, when you go to that site, you'll see, you basically put in your basic information, email, things of that nature, and you'll see a presentation on how we've been able to shift income, grow wealth, build residual income, and just kind of learn the rules of the wealthy, and we're happy to teach it to other people. So some cool pros, don't hesitate. MakeWeeklyMoney.com. Check that out ASAP. Now, since I'm live, I'm going to go over here and just see if I have any questions. No questions? Okay, perfect. That said, I will end this video.